Most people think they lose respect because they say the wrong thing, so they become more careful. They explain themselves more clearly. They give more context. They try harder to make people understand their intentions. Yet somehow, the more they explain, the less seriously they're taken. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling like your words carried no weight, despite saying everything right, the real problem may not be what you said. It may be the fact that you felt the need to explain it at all. You probably know exactly what that feels like. You tell someone why you made a decision because you don't want them to misunderstand you. You explain why you couldn't help, why you changed your mind, why you need space, or why you finally said no. In your mind, you're simply being honest. But when the conversation ends, you don't feel understood. You feel like you were defending yourself in a courtroom where you never should have been on trial. And somewhere inside you, a quiet question begins to grow. Why do I always feel like I have to justify myself? Most people believe explaining themselves earns trust because that's what they've been taught. If your intentions are good, explain them. If someone is upset, reassure them. If there's a misunderstanding, provide more information. It sounds reasonable. But human nature rarely works that way. People don't decide how much to respect you based on how convincing your explanations are. They decide based on something far quieter. They watch what your behavior suggests about how confident you are in your own decisions. And every unnecessary explanation quietly communicates something your words never intended. Think about the people whose opinions seem to carry the most weight, the people others naturally listen to. They are not constantly trying to convince everyone that their choices are reasonable. They rarely rush to justify their boundaries or seek permission to act in their own best interest. That is not because they are cold or arrogant. It is because they have quietly accepted something most people never do. Not everyone needs to understand them. The moment you stop treating your decisions like they require approval, other people begin seeing them differently. The difficult part is that explaining yourself often feels like the responsible thing to do. You don't want to seem rude. You don't want people to think you don't care. You don't want unnecessary conflict. So you keep adding one more sentence, one more reason, one more reassurance. But beneath those explanations is often an invisible fear. Not the fear of being misunderstood, but the fear that someone else's disappointment means you've done something wrong. And that is the fear people unconsciously learn they can influence. This is why over-explaining often has the opposite effect of what you intended. Every extra justification tells the other person that their acceptance matters more than your own certainty. It quietly shifts the balance of the conversation. Instead of communicating, "This is my decision," you begin communicating, "Please agree that my decision is acceptable." And once people sense that you need their approval to feel comfortable with your own choices, many will begin testing just how much influence they have over them. You've probably experienced this without realizing it. Someone questions a boundary you set, and within seconds you're explaining your schedule, your intentions, your workload, or your emotions. Meanwhile, someone else simply says, "I can't make it," and the conversation ends there. The difference isn't that their reasons are stronger. It's that they don't feel responsible for managing everyone else's reaction. They understand that disappointment is sometimes the price of honesty, not evidence that they've made the wrong decision. Most people never notice when this pattern begins. It usually starts with good intentions. You explain yourself because you value honesty. You clarify because you value understanding. You reassure because you care about the relationship. But over time, something subtle happens. The people around you stop treating your explanations as a gift and start expecting them as a requirement. Before long, silence feels suspicious, confidence looks unusual, and simply making a decision without justification starts to feel almost impossible. The people who benefit most from this are rarely strangers. They're often the people closest to you because they have learned your patterns over time. They know you'll eventually explain. They know you'll soften your boundaries if they seem disappointed. They know that if they stay silent long enough or question you just enough, you'll begin making the case for your own decisions. Without anyone saying it out loud, a quiet negotiation begins where your confidence becomes dependent on their approval, and they no longer have to ask for control because you keep handing it to them yourself. The irony is that the more you explain, the more people begin believing they deserve an explanation. What started as kindness slowly becomes an obligation. Then one day, when you finally answer with a simple no or I can't, the reaction feels surprisingly strong. Not because you've become unreasonable, but because you've quietly changed the rules of a relationship that was built around unlimited access to your time, energy, and emotional reassurance. At this point, you may be wondering whether the solution is to stop explaining yourself completely. It isn't. There are moments when explanations build trust, strengthen relationships, and prevent unnecessary misunderstandings. The difference is who you're explaining for. Are you offering clarity because it genuinely helps the conversation? Or are you trying to reduce your own discomfort by making sure nobody is upset with you? That single distinction changes everything, because one comes from confidence, while the other comes from fear. If you pay close attention, you'll notice that people who genuinely respect themselves don't measure the success of a conversation by whether everyone leaves happy. They measure it by whether they remained honest with themselves. They don't confuse someone else's emotional reaction with proof that they made the wrong choice. They understand a psychological truth that changes every interaction. You are responsible for your decisions. Other people are responsible for their feelings about those decisions. The moment those two responsibilities become blurred, respect quietly begins to disappear. This is why emotionally manipulative people often become uncomfortable the moment you stop over-explaining. They are not reacting to your words. They are reacting to the loss of access they once had. When you stop volunteering reasons they never truly needed, they lose information they could question, negotiate, or use to pull you back into defending yourself. What looks like confidence to you often feels like lost control to someone who was accustomed to influencing your decisions. The real shift begins when you stop seeing explanations as proof of honesty and start seeing them as a negotiation. Every unnecessary explanation invites debate. It gives the other person something to evaluate, challenge, or reject. A simple decision suddenly becomes a discussion. Before long, you're no longer communicating what you chose. You're trying to convince someone that your choice deserves to exist. And once you enter that negotiation, you've quietly accepted that your confidence depends on reaching an agreement that was never necessary in the first place. If this feels uncomfortable to hear, it's probably because you've spent years believing that being understood is the same as being respected. Most people never realize how much of their behavior is quietly shaped by the fear of disappointing others. That's exactly why I wrote a private ebook called The Art of Strategic Indifference. It explores the deeper psychology behind emotional independence, boundaries, and becoming far more difficult to manipulate. It's completely free. It's only available for viewers of this channel, and if you'd like to read it, you'll find the link in the description. Comment certainty if this changed the way you think about respect. Most people assume respect is something other people decide to give you. In reality, respect is often a prediction. People are constantly asking themselves, often without realizing it, how certain is this person about themselves? When your decisions remain steady without constant justification, people sense stability. But when every choice arrives wrapped in reassurance and explanation, They begin sensing uncertainty instead. They may not consciously think, "This person lacks confidence." They simply start treating your words as though they are still open for discussion. The hardest part is that over-explaining often disguises itself as maturity. It feels responsible. It feels respectful. It even feels emotionally intelligent. But if you look closely, many of those explanations are not acts of communication. They are attempts to prevent rejection before it happens. You aren't simply sharing your reasons. You're trying to make your decision impossible to criticize. And that means your peace no longer depends on making the right choice. It depends on whether someone else approves of the choice you already made. Once you see this pattern, you begin noticing it everywhere. In workplaces where one person always feels the need to justify leaving on time, while someone else simply says they have to go. In families where one sibling spends 10 minutes explaining a boundary, while another states it in a single sentence. In friendships where one person constantly reassures everyone else before making a decision. The difference is rarely intelligence, kindness, or character. It is whether someone believes their choices need permission to become valid. The reason this feels uncomfortable at first is because you've spent years measuring a conversation by one question. Did they understand me? But people who command quiet respect measure it differently. They ask, did I remain true to my decision? Those are not the same thing. One places your emotional stability in someone else's hands. The other keeps it where it has always belonged. And the moment you begin changing that standard, the way people respond to you slowly begins to change as well. Something else begins to change too. You stop feeling the need to rehearse conversations in your head afterward. You stop replaying every sentence, wondering whether you should have explained yourself better. That endless mental replay was never really about finding better words. It was about searching for a version of the conversation where everyone approved of your decision. Once you accept that some people will disagree no matter how carefully you explain yourself, the need to keep rewriting the conversation quietly begins to disappear. Perhaps the most surprising part is that people often interpret fewer explanations as greater certainty. Not because silence is magical, but because certainty rarely feels the need to defend itself. Think about the people whose decisions naturally carry weight. They don't rush to fill every silence or remove every doubt. They understand that confidence is communicated as much by what they choose not to say as by what they do. Every unnecessary explanation gives away certainty that never needed to be surrendered in the first place. Eventually, you realize that respect was never created in the moment you explained yourself. It was created long before that conversation ever happened. Every time you honored your own boundaries without apologizing for them, every time you accepted that someone else's disappointment did not automatically make you wrong, and every time you allowed your decisions to stand without seeking permission, you quietly taught people how to treat you. Respect is rarely built through better explanations. It is built through consistent behavior that no explanation can replace. This does not mean becoming distant or refusing to communicate. It means becoming intentional. There is a difference between offering an explanation because it adds value and offering one because you're afraid of how someone might react. One strengthens relationships because it comes from choice. The other weakens them because it comes from anxiety. The goal is not to speak less simply for the sake of speaking less. The goal is to stop giving fear a voice that sounds like honesty. The truth is that people are always learning from your behavior, not from your intentions, your explanations, or even your words. They are learning what you tolerate, what you negotiate, and what makes you abandon your own position. Every unnecessary explanation becomes part of that lesson. It quietly tells people that if they question you long enough, you'll eventually begin questioning yourself. But when your actions consistently match your decisions, something changes. Your words no longer need to carry the weight. because your behavior already has. There will always be people who dislike your decisions. Some will misunderstand you, some will be disappointed. Some may even accuse you of changing. But those reactions are not always signs that you've become less kind. Sometimes they are signs that you've become less available for manipulation. The people who benefited from your constant explanations will often notice the change first, because what they are really losing is not information. They are losing the ability to negotiate boundaries that no longer require their approval. The moment you stop explaining everything, you may feel exposed, almost as if you're doing something wrong. That feeling is not proof that you've become selfish. It is often proof that you're breaking a pattern your mind has followed for years. The guilt comes before the freedom, because your nervous system is adjusting to a new way of relating to people. Stay with that discomfort long enough, and you'll discover something unexpected. The respect you were trying to earn through endless explanations begins to appear naturally when you no longer feel compelled to earn it at all. The real goal was never to become someone who speaks less. It was to become someone whose decisions no longer depend on being understood by everyone. There is a quiet confidence that emerges when you stop treating every disagreement as a problem to solve. You begin realizing that your responsibility ends with making honest decisions, not with managing every emotional reaction those decisions create. And once you understand that, something subtle happens. You stop chasing respect through explanations, because you finally understand that genuine respect was never listening to your words. It was watching whether your actions consistently believed them. And perhaps that is the hidden shift you've been searching for all along. People rarely stop respecting you because you failed to explain yourself well enough. They stop respecting you when your explanations reveal that you no longer trust your own decisions until someone else approves of them. The day you stop asking permission to stand by your own choices is the day your words begin carrying a different kind of weight. Not because you've learned a better way to speak, but because you've finally become someone who no longer needs every decision to be understood before allowing yourself to believe it. One day you'll notice the difference without anyone pointing it out. Conversations become shorter, but not colder. Your boundaries become clearer, but not harsher. You stop feeling the urge to fill every silence with another explanation, because you've realized silence is not always uncertainty. Sometimes it is simply confidence refusing to argue with itself. And when your decisions stop sounding like requests for approval, other people slowly stop treating them like negotiations. You cannot control whether everyone agrees with you. You cannot control whether every decision is understood, appreciated, or accepted. But you can control whether you abandon yourself every time someone questions your choices. That is where quiet authority begins. Not in saying less for the sake of appearing mysterious, but in trusting your own judgment enough that it no longer needs constant validation. Because the people who carry the most influence are rarely the ones with the best explanations. They are the ones whose actions make explanations unnecessary. The people who seem impossible to manipulate are not impossible because they have better arguments. They are difficult to manipulate because they have separated two things most people confuse. They separate being understood from being certain. If someone understands them, that's welcome. If someone doesn't, they don't automatically assume they have failed. That quiet distinction changes every relationship they have, because once your confidence no longer depends on another person's agreement, your explanations become a choice instead of a necessity. The greatest advantage you can develop is not learning how to persuade everyone. It is learning how to remain steady when persuasion no longer works. There will always be people who expect another explanation, another apology, or another reason they can evaluate before allowing you to move forward. You do not need to become cold to stop participating in that pattern. You only need to remember one quiet truth. The more deeply you trust your own decisions, the less your self-respect depends on someone else's permission to make them. In the end, respect was never something hidden inside the perfect explanation. It was hidden inside the quiet belief that your choices were already valid before anyone else agreed with them. The less you need every decision to be understood, the more calmly you can stand by it. And the less you ask other people to confirm your judgment, the harder you become to manipulate, guilt, or control. Because real authority is not built by finding better words. It is built by becoming someone who no longer needs permission to trust their own mind. As you begin living this way, something unexpected happens inside you before it happens around you. The constant pressure to rehearse conversations starts fading. You stop measuring your worth by how well you defended yourself. You stop carrying imaginary debates long after they've ended. And in that silence, you discover something far more valuable than having the perfect explanation. You discover the quiet certainty that your decisions do not become more legitimate simply because someone else finally understands them. The people who command the deepest respect are not the ones who have mastered the art of explaining themselves. They are the ones who have mastered the art of standing by themselves. They know that honesty does not require endless justification, and that confidence does not demand universal agreement. The moment you stop treating every decision like a debate waiting to happen, your words begin carrying a different kind of weight. Not because you have become louder, harsher, or more persuasive, but because you have finally learned the quiet difference between seeking understanding and seeking permission. If there's one idea to take away from this video, it's that respect is rarely earned by finding better explanations. It's earned by trusting your own decisions before anyone else approves of them. If you'd like to explore that idea on a much deeper level, you can download my free private ebook, The Art of Strategic Indifference. The link is in the description. I'm curious, what's one situation where you caught yourself explaining far more than you needed to? Let me know in the comments. If you genuinely found value in this video, consider leaving a like. And if you're interested in emotional independence, strategic thinking, human nature, power dynamics, discipline, and self-mastery, subscribe and continue the journey. The next video on your screen expands this philosophy even further, and I think it's the perfect place to continue. If you want to go beyond what can realistically be shared on YouTube, you'll also find my Patreon in the description. It's where I publish my deepest observations, psychological breakdowns, and private material for people who genuinely want to master these ideas. It's not about more content. It's about exploring these concepts at a level that isn't suited to public platforms. Both the free ebook and Patreon are waiting for you in the description whenever you're ready to continue.